So at this point, we're going to go ahead and move forward to the next item on the agenda, which is talking about FYLPRO. A lot of you here are already familiar with FYLPRO, but Filipino Young Leaders Program, we are here to bridge cultures, the generations, and communities. Whether that's from the US to the Philippines, from different regions here in the US, or just, the generations, right? At the end of the day, we're looking to bring, we call it young professionals. I still officially qualify, but so these, officially it's called next generation leaders, but really these are leaders of today, right? That are doing things within their communities that deserve to be recognized for it. And what we do is we send them on a week-long immersion trip to the Philippines. And batch 10 just completed their immersion trip. And we actually have a recap video to show about this. So, all right, there's a couple of familiar looking faces here. I know somebody has a fan club in attendance, so be sure to cheer. Well,
morning!
Cute, cute! I love this. So pretty.
Today is the day that we're going around Cebu. Okay, my name is PG. PG. Yes.
Here in front of Magellan's Cross and the Basilica of the Santo Niño. It's pretty exciting to have a tour of this area. It's like very important for Philippine history.
It's really very interesting to learn that we have such a colorful history and also just the different traditions going on.
It's especially interesting for me because I recently went to Magellan's house in Portugal. So it's interesting to compare the story that the Filipinos have versus the Portuguese.
So when the tides change, the waters goes forward, backward. So that's the sinulog dance. Forward, backward, imitating the flow of the water.
Having a speaker like PG to talk about how she herself was inspired to become a tour guide because of the stories that we don't hear about as Filipinos, as Filipino Americans, has been incredibly heartwarming for me. And it's inspired me to continue on with, for me as a documentary filmmaker, as a storyteller, this is how we make change. We are able to tell stories. We're in a privileged position that we have the knowledge and we have the skills to make change through storytelling.
Viva Señor! Santa Niño Church!
What our tour guide said emulates the waves. It's like pretty fascinating just to see like traditional Filipino history and like religion mesh with the religion that the Spaniards and the Portuguese explorer Magellan brought to Cebu and the Philippines.
And so, I don't know, I feel like I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of FYLPRO and everything that you've done for us today, because we can see your passion and your drive for wanting to tell these stories and being able to raise awareness and impact people outside of us, outside of these groups to do more.
You coming here when DOT called me, so it's like one of the answered prayers that I have. Lord, bring me people, where I can talk to and where these stories can be told all over the world, because we need you. We cannot bring all Filipinos abroad to the Philippines, but you can bring our stories abroad. So now, the torch is in your hand. The ball is in your hand. So pass it on. So sa Bisaya pa, padayon. Move on, power on. Padayon.
there's actually an action item for everybody that's here today. And that is to share the stories that we're seeing and hearing here today to the mainstream, right? Most of us here have ties with the Philippines, whether it's we ourselves as immigrants here or whether you're second, third, or whatever degree of separation, so to speak. At the end of the day, we're all Filipino Americans, Filipinos or Filipino Americans, and I've heard Conjen mention this multiple times. You can take the Filipino out of the Philippines, you can never take the Philippines out of the Filipino. That's a beautiful quote. And hopefully, if you take anything from tonight, we can share that story with your respective networks. And someone who is going to be sharing her story here today is somebody from that last batch. You saw her, what? You still see her. Front and center, literally and figuratively. Everybody please help me welcome Patty.
Thank you, Fred.
Yes.
Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. So as you kind of witnessed, a little bit of our immersion program experience, which started in Cebu. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Patty, aka Piaya Patty, which is my FYLPRO nickname, and I'll get into that a little bit more. So basically there were a lot of moments like in the trip, especially in the beginning, as we were kind of like getting to know each other, soaking in all of the richness of just being in the Philippines together. There were 15 of us in our batch. We would take these kind of like long bus rides to the different points. As you see, we went to Magellan's Cross, we visited the Lapu-Lapu Shrine. So we would play these little games with each other on the bus. So in order for us to remember each other's names, say something in Filipino plus your name. So for me, it's Piaya Patty, because I love Piaya. So thank you. So just like a little bit about my background and what kind of inspired me to apply to the FYLPRO Immersion program. So many years ago, I was once a Fulbright scholar to the Philippines. I was in the same batch as Antonia Moya and several other FYLPRO alum that are not here right now. And that kind of experience of being in the Philippines, we were there for 9 months, kind of like opened me up to really connecting with who I am as a Filipino American and what it's like to be in the Philippines. I got really interested and invested in arts and culture. I became an arts journalist, and I actually continued living in the country for many years later. So coming back full circle, I decided to apply for FYLPRO because I missed that connection again, and I wanted to know what it would feel like to, just celebrate that Filipino pride and my heritage. And the FYLPRO Immersion program is like a unique opportunity that allows us to kind of like go back, and it's a 1-week program, very intensive and busy, but we're able to get all of the best, experiences and opportunities. We had like Government Day where we went to Malacanang, museum, learned about like the history of like the presidents of the Philippines. I got a really cool experience of going to the GMA network, and I raised my hand when they asked for volunteers who would like to appear on the show, Tick to Clock, and play a game. And funny thing about that day, it was just like soaking it in, like, just being in this like large, media network, being on set. And then like, I remember, because it was another one of my batchmates, Nikki, so we were both kind of competing with each other in this game, and Pok Kwang was there. I mean, it was amazing. And then like, they were like, oh, okay, and it was just kind of like an embarrassing experience, because they're like, do you know any Filipino jokes? And I literally could not think of anything. But I had like the best time of my life. So we were just kind of like racing these balls and just like having the best time. So that was like such a memorable experience for me. So from that, a lot of like really great times in Cebu. We were able to visit a social enterprise called Hinablon sa Cebu. So we were able to kind of learn about like weaving traditions and techniques, and get to know a little bit about like the history and its association with Cebu Technical University. There were so many moments, like small and big, And if I were to sum it up in terms of like what is the most impactful, I would say my takeaway is, you know, just like the bond and the network that the FYLPRO like community brings. I feel so enriched just by having that experience of being in community, you know, with my batch, with also our incredible leadership and also other FYLPRO alums and board members like Genevieve, who's here, who was there during our trip. Michelle was there during our trip. It just, you know, it really spoke to me. And so coming back to the US, I just want to really share with you how important this program is. And for those who are considering applying, do not hesitate. It is a once in a lifetime experience, and you are going to meet like the best friends of your life. So yeah, thank you.
All right, one more time for Patty, folks. All right, so one of my favorite quotes for like Filipino quotes, right? I know Patty was talking about Filipino jokes, but Filipino quote is from Dr. Rizal, actually two from Dr. Rizal. He says, "The youth is the hope of the motherland." That obviously that's appropriate for FYLPRO, right? The second one is relevant to our immersion trip, and it's ang hindi marunong lumingon sa kanyang pinanggalingan ay hindi makararating sa kanyang paroroonan. One who does not know how to look back to their past will never get to their destination. And you know, this immersion program, I think, is a very nice way to allow these young Philam leaders to get connected or reconnected with the motherland. Whether or not they're actually born there, it's a very nice way to really feel that culture firsthand, as Patty was able to share with us, as this video was able to share with us. The L in FYLPRO is leadership, right? So at this point, I would like to bring up one of the leaders within FYLPRO. This is somebody who definitely makes her mark within the organization, full of stellar individuals. And she, you know, I'm very proud of what she's been doing and what she's about to do. Many of you have probably already known of her, if not having already met her tonight. But I would like to call up FYLPRO's Vice President and our President-elect. Please help me welcome Genevieve. Come on up, Genevieve.
Fred. Good evening, mayong gabi sa inyo tanan. For those who are Ilonggo, Patty, yes, go to the island. Speaking of, you know, leadership, Kanjan speaks a lot about mentorship, and I think a lot about leadership is mentoring. So it's very fitting that I invited some of you folks in the room because I like to surround myself with mentors and leaders to help enrich me and become a better leader. And so the Politos have been those people. You know, as Kanjan speaks about making sure that we, you know, we give back and that we move the giving forward and continue to do so. So that way, those that came before us, whether that's our families, or whether it's the community, that your sacrifices don't go unheard of, or it doesn't go to waste. And so I really appreciate you guys being here. I've known this strong couple for a long time, since I was younger, and I hope to, you know, empower you guys to empower Malia and other youth in college, because I know that you guys do a lot in terms of mentoring, and many of you do also in this room. So I'm the president-elect, and leading on FYLPRO doesn't necessarily mean you have to be an alumni. A few years ago, they changed the bylaws that allows folks to be part of membership without having to go through the immersion program. So you could actually serve on the board, you could serve on committees, you could partner with us, and many of you in the room are doing that through Tayo, through CFAM. I think it was Jobel who's not on the board, but he's been a big part of Tayo. And so it's great to see community come together. When we talk about mentorship as well, we get to, as FYLPRO alumni and members, get to mentor some amazing organizations. Josh just walked in. He's actually one of the founders and leadership of Phil Excellence, which is a nonprofit organization that actually helps develop future Filipino leaders. And I think it's important for FYLPRO to engage with organizations like that, because we're building the pipeline of future leaders. So we get to actually mentor amazing leaders. I actually learn a lot. My mentor, Vince Contay, is an asylum organizer, and he protects and he helps asylum seekers find safety. And so I learn a lot from him, and I'm supposed to be mentoring him, but actually I feel like I learn more from him. Other programs that we take part of is the U.S. Asian Impact, the U.S. Asian Institute Impact program, where we also mentor some college students there. And actually my mentee was from Wisconsin, and she coincidentally is also Miss Earth USA. And her project, if you think about like legacy projects, part of her, I think her application when she was running for Miss Earth USA is global environmental asylum. When you think about the Philippines and some of the environmental hazards, actually she spoke a lot about that. Now she's going around the world talking about that and representing our organization and impact. Recently, some of you guys may know J.R. Colano, who was the first batch ever, also former president. He partnered with the Department of State with a program called YLI, the Youth Leaders of Asian Institute, which, Youth Leaders of America Institute, which basically represents the Caribbean and Latin America. They take entrepreneurs from those parts of the world that are ages 25 to 35, and they bring them to San Francisco, and basically we host them for a month, and they shadow people within FYLPRO and also within the network, where they get to learn how to do business in California or the United States. And so that's a program under the Department of State. So I think being part of leadership with FYLPRO, you get to engage with other departments and organizations that are similar to those that are reflected in the Philippine Embassy to the United States. So it's not only, I think, being able to lead, but I think it's being able to enrich yourself with other, I think, opportunities to enrich yourself. And so I encourage folks to get involved. I know a lot of people joke around that you might be aged out of the 25 to 45 FYLPRO application. I joke around that every time they would raise the age, I was always like 1 year above that limit. And it was during the pandemic where they decided under Lizelle's leadership that they should expand it to 45, because during the pandemic people aged out. And so that was the only time I was able to apply, and I said, okay, this is the last year I could do it, so I don't make it, then I don't know. So, but I'm glad I was able to make it, and like what Patty said is very life-changing. The Immersion program, as I think I was talking to Martin earlier, the Immersion program, the 1 week trip is very life-changing. I grew up going back to the Philippines on vacations for a long amount of time, and I didn't think that the trip would impact me as much. But there was a day, Josh was there, he's on my batch, there was a day when we left, and Eco too, that van ride, I think it was very memorable. Remember that van ride? It was very memorable. We left Ayala's farm. We left Ayala's farm, and we were there planting trees with the community in the province, and a lot of us, I think, reflected. What I reflected is that I could be in community and give back to community where that represents my family, where my family came from. My family came from poor farming towns, and then here we are in a van, and we just spent an afternoon with the second gentleman, with Doug Emhoff. We were acknowledged on the House of Representatives floor. So to be part of an organization that can demonstrate and show you the depth and breadth of, to be honest, our privilege, and what we can do as Filipino Americans to honor that. How do we learn from that, but how do we move forward and give back, so that way, as Kanjan mentioned, shape leaders. I think that's our responsibility as Filipino Americans. So thank you for being here. I look forward to talking to you guys again.